look, I'm happy for Billy. I mean, Pat, I don't think they really wanted to fire him because they believe in him. He's likable. He is a good representative of Florida. And at some point, if money starts drying up and people stop coming to the games, you have to make a change. And that was the concern. It almost happened, right? Like there was a point where people just stopped caring. It was on the brink. But he pulled him out of that ditch, and man, I'm happy for him. He set the groundwork and laid the foundation for the future of Florida football.
Another duly noted podcast comes to you from the Coach's Podcast Room at Spurrier's Gridiron Grill in Celebration Point. Okay, and welcome into another duly noted podcast brought to you by the good folks at Titan MRI and Imaging. They are now, of course, just bought the Highfield MRI, so they got it all, man. They got all kinds of things that you can get done over there, and believe me, I've been using it in the past and will be using it again because I'm banged up. Of course, we're coming to you from the Meldon Law Dooley Dome Gator Studio. Appreciate the Meldons for being a sponsor, and we're still trying to figure out how we're going to do this next week because Coach Spurrier is on his meeting. It's meeting season for him, or it's banquet season. It's rubber chicken season because he's got to go for Hall of Fame, for the Heisman. So he'll be out the next 2 Mondays. We're trying to get somebody else. Coach may end up doing a Thursday show instead, but we'll get somebody in here. In fact, I know that we have Scott Strickland lined up for next Thursday. And then we have to get somebody for next Monday and then the following Monday. Barrett Sallee is going to join us today from Smothered N Covered and, of course, Sirius Radio. Love his stuff. And I did want to say real tragedy happened this over the weekend, and the news came out last night. One of our colleagues, Bob Holt, from the Arkansas Democrat-Gazette, one of the nicest guys, sweetest guys in the world, who is always there for you whenever you need him for anything. Just a super guy, kind of a typical sports writer, kind of dumpy-looking dude, but as good and would do anything, would take his shirt off for you. And unfortunately, he had a spell at the Missouri-Arkansas game, and of course it was freezing there, and went to the hospital and passed away last night. And really, really sad to hear about it. Bob Holt, for those of you who don't know anything about him, if you ever watch SEC Media Day, always got the first question. And whoever the coach was to go, "Bob, how you doing?" He was a fixture there, man. Hate to hear that. And in fact, I was just thinking about getting Bob to come on and talk about Calipari at Arkansas, because Bob's always done every show we've ever asked him to do. So it's depressing in a way. Certainly, hope his family is getting through this, and we send our prayers out to them. All right, let us get to our Royal Blue starting five. And of course, Royal Blue, our new sponsor for the starting five. And that makes me want to jump in the water, that insignia there, that logo. But they're doing a great job. And, of course, talked to Randy yesterday, actually, about this and what we're trying to do with it and make it special and everything like that. So let's get to the Royal Blue starting five. And that will start off with number one, which is signing day, of course, was yesterday, the first signing day. But it's the big one now. It does seem bizarre that coaches are having to have press conferences about their signing day 2 days before or 3 days before they're playing in a conference championship game. That the calendar is all messed up. It's just totally messed up, and it's kind of been shoved down everybody's throat. But the coaches did want to be able to get it through, so it wasn't hanging over them. Look. There's got to be a better way to do this. But in the end, Florida ended up with a really good class. I think that Gator fans are kind of like, I know that it wasn't the number one class. It's number 10 or 11, whatever you want to say. And, of course, they're going to use the portal to make it even stronger, which they've done in the past. But I think the great thing was yesterday, wherever I was looking and flipping around, the media boys and girls were very happy with Billy Napier, and they were giving him a lot of credit and just loving on him like they haven't ever before. And that was neat. And I think there's also this. I think Gator fans trust Billy enough now. This was the thing. Billy, everybody always was saying the same thing. Billy is doing things the right way. Nobody's getting arrested. Nobody's getting in trouble. They've got the facilities. They've got the NIL straightened out, but they've got to show it on the field. And they finally did. And now everybody's like, okay, this guy knows what he's doing. We get it now. Whatever he brings in, we trust that he's going to make that work and that they're going to be right for him and they're going to be the right kind of people. I think that's where most Gator fans are. Hey, that recruiting class, if Billy wants them, then we want them, you know. But it certainly was interesting to see that class go from, because if you remember where everybody was in the jar when they were ranked 55th and they were losing games and everything, and I don't blame you. And this is the thing. I've said all along, you have to let the season play out and then make a decision. Doesn't do you any good to make a hiring or a firing. Maybe in the last week it would, but there was nothing that told you this would be a good idea to go ahead and fire him early so you got to jump on people. I don't think anybody felt that way. What I did feel was, hey, look, this guy can get it done. I know he can in my heart. But if he doesn't get it done, yeah, he can't stay around here. This is not the home for wayward coaches. This is serious football, and he better be able to get it done. So then he got it done. And now I'm kind of like this, the whole thing I was telling everybody, let it all play out. I know nobody's celebrating 7-5, but 7-5 is better than what it's been. And it's certainly, you feel like there's a lot of momentum going, and they kept it going through recruiting. That was another thing I talked about a lot last week, was how you've got to keep the momentum going, and that includes beating FSU. I know that FSU's terrible. You watch the game. They're awful. I don't know how they got so bad and that fast, but they did. But you still had to win the game. You had to win the game, keep momentum going. Same thing the last week. Remember after they beat LSU and everybody's like, well, there's the signature win. That's great. Okay, we can move on to the next story. No, I kept saying, no, you got to go beat Ole Miss too. And beat FSU and get to 7-5 and get everything going the right direction. That to me would be the ideal thing, and it's how it worked out. So that was good. And signing day, Florida ended up, whatever their class is ranked, don't worry, it's 10th, 11th, whatever. Bottom line is they got some good players in here, flipped some guys at the last minute, took a lot of them away from Florida State, in fact, and two from Texas and one from, where was it from? I don't know, I can't remember. Southern Cal, I think. Yeah. Anyway, they did a great job, and give Billy credit. All right, let's move along to number 2 on our Royal Blue starting 5. And that is that in the national picture, it's the same places that got all the players. Alabama, Georgia, Ohio State, Notre Dame, Texas. I mean, it's the same. It's not like it's got easier because Florida signed a bunch of players. The thing is, I think people now believe that Florida can compete at this level with the kind of players they're getting. And you don't have to have 5 stars. 4 stars can work out just fine. They're being evaluated by, people that aren't necessarily right. I mean, we know that. I mean, it's not that look, the cottage industry that recruiting has become is at first I kind of poo-pooed it. I go, this is ridiculous. But it's become a big deal. And I think these guys spent a lot of time going around and watching people so they know what's going on. I'm not saying that they don't know and they don't get how a guy could be a 4 seed or a 5-star and you gave him a 4-star or a 3-star. I don't worry about that kind of stuff. It's just one person's opinion and it's fine. For example, Clemson. I'll give you Clemson. 15. They signed 15 players and they're not using the portal. Okay, I don't know how that's going to work out for you there. But it's just an odd way of doing things. And then I wonder how much, because Lincoln Riley's class got really damaged too. And I wonder how much it was that rumor or story that came out that UCF was gauging interest in Lincoln Riley. Now that would seem like a terrible switch of jobs. You're going from La La Land, where you're not going to ever be the biggest thing in town. I guess maybe with Pete Carroll, they were close to the biggest team. I still think the Lakers and Dodgers were 1 and 2. But still, I mean, you can live in some anonymity, and you live in a place where you should get better players than they're getting, to be honest with you. To move to a traffic-infested Orlando, where it's a lot hotter, and you're not in as good a conference, and you're not. It's just not as attractive a job. Nobody can tell me the UCF job is better than the USC job. So I don't even know if he was interested in it. But I wonder if it affected his recruiting, or people would say, "Hey, we're hearing you may be going to UCF." I'm not going to UCF. Well, we hear it. I mean, it's all you need. People are saying. All right, so that was the recruiting picture for this year, and obviously good news for the Gators, and that's the main thing. And now we see what happens with the portal going forward. Let us go to number 3 on our Royal Blues starting 5, and I watched that basketball game last night. Was great. My daughter went to it. I enjoyed watching it. This team has what I think. I read this in Chris Harry's column. I didn't realize who had coined the phrase spurtability. I thought it was somebody from a porn, but no, that's a joke. It's a good joke that you got to admit. Spurtability is what you see from Florida, where they're in a game, it's a fight, maybe they're down by 5 or something, and then all of a sudden they run off 20 in a row, and you go and you just kind of you're devastated. And look, basketball is a game of runs. We know that. It always is. You get on a run, you get depressed, or the other team gets on a run, you fight back. You feel all excited. They get on a run. You get depressed. It is a game of runs, but Florida has a real unique ability to do this, to go on really nice runs. They had 15 straight points last night, and that kind of put the game away against Virginia. And that's another win for the SEC and another win for Florida over a pretty good team. Florida is all the way up to 5th in the net rankings. Now, I think a lot of that, and I'll get to that in a minute, is what else happened with SEC teams increases Florida's strength. Florida was 29th. They won one game, went up to 5th. I'm net ranking can be real weird right now. And I still look at it, just as something to talk about. 9-0 though right now. And, Condon had a big game, 19 points, 8 rebounds. Martin was 16. 21.5 is the average spread on Florida's games. 21.5 points, just the average win for them. Now, what they've shown is their spurtability works really good against decent teams. We'll see if it works against great teams, because that's about all they're going to face for a while. I mean, you got North Carolina coming up. I know you got a couple of home games in there after that, and then Kentucky, then the SEC, which is ridiculously strong. And to prove that point, we will bring you to number 4 on our Royal Blues starting 5, and that is that the SEC-ACC challenge is over, and the SEC barely beat the ACC 14-2. And here's the great thing. The SEC won 14-2, and the only 2 losses, Kentucky to Clemson. I may have to get a Clemson t-shirt. And Auburn to Duke. I may have to get a Duke. My two least favorite teams were the only ones who lost there, and the SEC went 14-2. That is impressive. Now, I know that the ACC is not what the ACC used to be. FSU's not very good, as we know. Miami's not as good as they've been in the past, as we know. There's some other teams that are slumping. Clemson's not as good as they have, and then they beat Kentucky. I thought they were going to be not as good. But, 2 teams didn't play, and I think it was Syracuse, and I have a hard time remembering who's in that league anymore. I think Stanford didn't play in it. Yeah, Stanford. Maybe it was Stanford and somebody else. But anyway, it really doesn't matter. Whoever played in it was going to lose to the SEC, unless you were playing Kentucky. Oh, I love that. All right, so that says a lot about, and I think that's why Florida's net went way out of whack, like 5th. Because everybody in the league won. There are 5 teams in the top 10 of the net ranking right now from the SEC. And that's because they keep winning. They're winning all their games. and including beating all these ACC teams. Now, I will tell you that the net ranking stuff doesn't matter now, but it will matter, and those things are still going to be part of it. And I think that's going to be a bigger blow for the SEC than they thought it would be, because I think it's going to hurt that and I think that has really helped the SEC in these latest rankings. So we'll see. I wanted to show everybody something here. It's hard sometimes. I get turned around. There we go. See that right there? That is a Gainesville Sun rack that my wife got for me for my birthday. We just got it into the house. Managed to put it in the house, sitting here in my room. I just wanted to show what a great wife I have. My wife is actually having minor surgery today, and my hat is not on straight, is it? So I'm waiting for her to get out, and then I'm gonna go pick her up. But she is the best. She is the best. Let's get to number 5 on the royal blue starting 5. And I tell you, that is a shade of blue that is beautiful, isn't it? That royal blue logo. And I didn't think I'd be doing this as the last item on a Thursday show, but the reveal came out Tuesday night. And I sit there and I'm trying to figure out, is this right? Is it right? Not whether it's fair or not. Fair is what you take your pig to and get a ribbon, okay? Fair, this isn't necessarily fair. What it is funny, because if Miami does get left out, and I see the argument both ways, Miami had 2 easy losses. Their losses are better, but they don't have any wins. That was what Cristobal was trying to tell everybody. Concentrate on the wins, not the resume or not the logo and everything. And I'm just like, look, I could see putting Alabama in. I could see putting South Carolina in. I could see putting Mississippi in. I can see putting Miami in. But I think there's only going to be one spot there. And I guess there'll be one for sure, right? Although if Clemson beats SMU, that puts Clemson and SMU probably in, and it may knock Alabama out too. That part I don't care about. It's not me about being just, the SEC needs more teams, and whatever they decide on is fine. But if Miami gets left out, and 2 straight years the state of Florida got left out because they had great teams that just got left out, that would be something. And arch rivals, that would be okay. I would be okay with that. But it's really weird because I'm looking for paths that Miami can still get in. Now, here's the thing, and I'm going to ask Barrett about this too. Is there a possibility that the committee of 13 will sit there and go, you know what? We've been thinking about it a little bit more. We're gonna flop those. You don't know. That could happen, and it has happened before. It happened, of course. Was that the first year, right? When TCU was it TCU and Baylor that had were 3 and 4, and then Ohio State won their bowl or their they didn't have a playoff in the Big 12. Ohio State won its playoff game, and they jumped them and got in. So you never know. You never know what's going to happen. But Ward Manuel, who's the chairman of the committee, said, "No, this is pretty much final, other than those games that are going to decide seeds, because as you know, you got some of those with this weekend. Anyway." It's crazy. It's weird. I will be at 14 within 2 years, maybe 16 within 2 years, because eventually somebody's going to say, hey, we don't like this. We'd rather do something different. Okay. All right. That's going to do it for our Royal Blues starting 5. Again, thanks to Randy Royal for being a sponsor. Hopefully it'll be a long partnership with him, and get over there and buy some yachts, man. You buy one yacht, he's going to be good for a long time. I tell you that. But he knows what he's doing. Really good dude. All right, let us take a break. When we come back, we'll come back with Barrett Sallee. Barrett is, I've known him for a long time. He lives in Atlanta. He is a big Braves fan too, kind of like that. But he does his own podcast, Smothered N Covered, and also is on Sirius Radio every Sunday. That's my favorite thing, going to the gym, listening to him and Tom Luganbill do the show. I get to find out all kinds of things and start jotting them down in the car. I got to use that somewhere. But they're great. So we'll get him on when we come back. You're watching or listening to another duly noted podcast presented by Titan MRI and Imaging. I hope I said that right. They got a lot going on there. And of course, coming to you from the Meldon Law, Dooley Dome, Google Studios. What is a Google Studio? I was thinking about Googling something. I think my brain's not working as good as it sometimes does. All right, we are coming to you from the Meldon Law, Dooley Dome, Gator Studios. It's written around right here, idiot. All right, we'll be back with Barrett in just a minute. Thanks for watching.
Meldon Law has been serving personal injury victims since 1971. In those days, Jeffrey Meldon's presence as an attorney in the music scene dubbed him with the nickname the Hippie Attorney. And although times have changed, two things haven't: our commitment to bettering our community by helping the injured,
Albert, are you ready to go to the game?
and our love for the Florida Gators.
If you bleed orange and blue, Meldon Law is the firm for you.
At Royal Blue, we use such tools as AI, bulk email marketing, trade shows, Google search advertising, and multiple websites. We take a much more proactive approach to getting your boat sold in a timely manner. With our extensive client list and broker-dealer network, we can track down vessels that might be perfect for you and your family, that may not even be listed for sale yet, giving you the right of first refusal. We have spent the last 15 years in boat sales, observing and listening to our clients. In response to our findings, we have constructed a custom yacht brokerage that strives to fit their needs and not ours. Call us today to schedule a consultation to see what Royal Blue can do to solve all of your boating needs. Call Randy at 850-974-1294.
Great food, great atmosphere, a diverse menu, everything made from scratch, plenty of space, and locally owned. These are all the characteristics of a great restaurant, and you can find each and every one of them right here in Gainesville at Ballyhoo Grill. Ballyhoo Grill prepares all of their food fresh every day, from their salad dressing to their award-winning soups. Bring your family and enjoy dinner under the Tim Trebo Tiki Hut while listening to live music. Or if you're running low on time to eat out, they also deliver through Uber Eats, Bite Squad, and Postmates. A Gainesville staple that's been open for over 30 years. Check out Ballyhoo Grill on Facebook or at ballyhoogrill.com.
Okay, welcome back to another Duly Noted podcast presented by Titan MRI and Imaging, and certainly brought to you by Meldon Law, from the Meldon Law Studios. It's a great pleasure to bring in my friend Barrett Sallee, who, of course, you read his stuff on Smothered N Covered. You hear him every Sunday. You got to listen to him on that. He wraps up the whole weekend for me, and it's great. I always steal some of your little tidbits and use in my column as if they were my own. I'll tell you that on Sirius Radio. How are you, Barrett?
I'm good. I'm glad somebody listens and takes something from me, because usually it's just me babysitting Tom Luganville, which is a challenge in and of itself. I tell you that.
Tom is a piece of work, isn't he? I love that guy. Hey, let me ask you first to start off the show here today, or start off this segment. The Billy Napier Lazarus project that he went through. I mean, everybody wanted him gone. I kept telling people, wait, let the season play out. But no, 3 games in, everyone wants him fired. Ends up with a top 10 class, beats 2 ranked teams at the end. You know, it's pretty much a miracle what happened for him.
Yeah, especially without Lagway for a couple game or a game and a half. I still believe they'd have beaten Georgia had Lagway stayed in. It's been look, I'm happy for Billy. I mean, you know, Pat, I don't think they really wanted to fire him because they believe in him. He's likable. He is a good representative of Florida. And at some point, you know, if money starts drying up and people stop coming to the games, you have to make a change. And that was the concern. It almost happened, right? Like there was a point where, you know, people just stopped caring. It was on the brink. But he pulled him out of that ditch. And man, I'm happy for him. He set the groundwork and laid the foundation for the future of Florida football. People started realizing, hey, the youth he brought in, the NIL foundation that he's brought in is working. It's not perfect, but it's working. And so now moving forward, I think Florida's in a spot where, all right, maybe next year the schedule's still tough. You know, you might have some roadblocks here or there, but it's going in the right direction. And with Billy Napier at the helm, you know, he can get to a spot where they're competing for a playoff spot essentially every season. Yeah,
I mean, I think Gator fans trust him now. You know, I think they finally go, okay, we didn't see your vision, we couldn't really see it, but now now we're seeing it, and certainly that's a big factor in it as well. But look, I was telling people, they were saying, "Is he on the hot seat?" I go, "Look, there's real hot seats and there's perceived hot seats."
Yeah,
He goes 4-8, he's on a hot seat. Okay,
for sure.
Yeah, he's probably gone, but he didn't. He went 7-5, and I can't believe Gator fans are celebrating 7-5 after going through Spurrier and Meyer. But
It
we
tells
are.
you where the program's been, though.
I know.
I mean, that tells you exactly where the program's been. And, you know, it's funny, like, Pat, you've been in this business for a while. I have too. Patience is not a word that we're accustomed to using for a fan base. I think for the first time in a long time, you saw a fan base anywhere, but at Florida, of all places, that was okay with it, which,
Yeah.
I mean, in this day and age is like a 80-degree turn from what we see basically everywhere.
Yeah, I mean they've had 12 straight sellouts for a losing team with losing record,
Yeah.
which
There's
is
nothing to be excited about.
I know. But I mean, I do think that that's what Lagway brings to the table, and not only the excitement of maybe he's going to get in the game to now he's your quarterback, and players are going to want to come play with him, which is I think the one reason they had such a good recruiting cycle.
Yeah, and you know, seeing it down the stretch, I think, was another thing. You know, it'd be one thing if Florida started out hot and faded down the stretch, which, I mean, honestly,
they did the
looking at
last 2 years
before the season. That's exactly what people expected, to do it the way they did, and show the foundation, not just the fan base, but I mean, you know, the players are the best recruits, and I'm not talking about simply the players on a team. The high school players themselves recruit each other to go to the same places, and I think Florida, that happened a lot with Florida. So it was very important on a lot of levels, the way the season shaped up. And no matter what happens in a bowl game, I don't think anybody really cares all that much, because, you know, you see what the future can be.
You know, do you see a day when bowl games are going to kind of dwindle down instead of going the other way like they always have? Just because now with a 12-team playoff, it almost feels like, well, you know. But I mean, that was the way it was before when Florida went to the Las Vegas Bowl. Nobody wanted to go. The players, you know.
Which, I mean, how can you not want to go to Las Vegas? I mean, seriously. But no, I mean, I think that bowl games have sort of taken the place of what spring games used to be a decade ago. Yeah. The rule after COVID that you don't count a bowl game toward the 4-game redshirt rule, I've been screaming that forever. And then now we start seeing everybody sort of bail, all the veterans bail. It's like, okay, well now you make it a glorified spring game. You make it a spring game on steroids to say, hey, look, you know, this might be a loss. Doesn't matter. Look at what we have going forward. Look at what, you know, last year, if DJ was there, look at what DJ can do. And we've seen that with some teams. Jackson Arnold, you know, I know he's just transferred, but he did that in a bowl game last year. You know, that's how it should be. And especially now with the spring games themselves, coaches don't want to show anything. They're boring. Nobody's on TV anymore. Like, what's the point? So make it a bowl game. And look, I know folks will say, well, there's nobody at, you know, Stadium X, at Raymond James Stadium, whatever. They don't care how many people are at games. They're TV shows, and they rate very, very good no matter where they're being played.
Their content is what they are.
Exactly.
You know, they're ESPN content. And let me tell you what.
And gambling content.
That's right. Exactly. In fact, when Florida scored their last touchdown Saturday night against FSU, and the announcer was saying, well, for some people, that was of a lot of interest. And I'm like, and my wife's going, what does he mean by that? And I go, well, the spread was 17, and it got way up to 17. And if you still bet Florida just covered. And she goes, oh, I didn't know that people
makes sense.
noticed that.
Yeah. It's look, and honestly, like this is off topic of college football. That's why the NFL became popular.
Yeah.
It's the reason. After Major League Baseball tanked after the steroid thing, gambling is what made the NFL popular, even though it was illegal in 49 states.
But fantasy football, you know, and I think fantasy football is a big part of why the NFL has gotten popular, because everybody I know has got a fantasy league, and they're, you know, that good. I didn't do it this year. I didn't want to go it because my thing was I'd watch a game and I would root for the players and not for the game. I I didn't care if it was a good game or not. And I didn't like that part of it, so I got out of it finally. I was in it for a long time, but
I've gotten to the point now where all my friends are in the same league. We've been there for 25 years, and I suck at it, so I just give them the money. Just say,
just give it to them up front. That's when I play golf. I go, here's my 20. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, if I lose, I lose. If I win somehow by some miracle, cool, pay me. If not, let's have some fun.
Let me ask you about one of our favorite topics, which is to bash FSU and what is going on over there. I've never seen anything quite like this. And I mean, I was around the 0-10-1 Florida team, but they were coming off 4-7, so it wasn't like I mean, this team should have been in the national championship game last year, obviously, and they just, I guess, didn't do their portal homework right and didn't get the guys in that were going to make a difference.
Yeah, and I think I still like Mike Norvell. He's still relatively new at this in terms of coaching in general, but definitely Power 5. Because I mean, I give him a pass. You can't build a program during COVID, right? Like it's just so I kind of see this as kind of a 2.0, kind of a restart over the last few years. I think to me, he got portal guys 2 years ago that were interested in actually winning, that came in. Because if you remember 2 years ago for Florida State, they had that thing for unfinished business. They had this team already together. Jared Verse came back. All those guys came back to win a championship. And they should have been in the playoff. But they had transfers come in that mentally bought into that. I think this year they just got a bunch of individuals. And, it's a hard evaluation to have whether people are going to fit into your locker room. And I think for Florida State, because they had so many people leave, Mike Norvell didn't know what his locker room attitude was. Like nobody did. And so you brought guys in that just didn't fit what it evolved into. And you had 85 players going in 85 different directions. And look, it happens, live and learn. And in this portal era, you're going to, not like maybe to that extent, but you're going to have situations like that where teams just fall off a cliff because, it's a transient business now.
I saw it happen with 2000 Alabama, and it was the coaches were all going in different directions.
Exactly.
They didn't like each other. So, but it'll be interesting to see what happens this weekend. Obviously, Georgia, Texas, the game I want to pay the most attention to. And I know that Sark and of course I have Coach Spurrier on every Monday on my podcast, and he was talking about this. He goes, the thing he liked about Sark was that he really wants to go win this championship. He's not worried about going forward. And I think that hit his tone with Coach, because Coach really believes in SEC championships in his case. So that is pretty cool. But I think Kirby's wants it just as bad. I mean, I don't think he's going to go, whatever. He's playing in front, and it's basically in a home game. So he's got to be able to perform pretty well.
Yeah, it means a lot to Kirby. Knowing him, this is something when he was at Georgia, it's what they strive for. And I think for the SEC, the SEC championship game is sort of the bellwether, right? It started the renaissance. I think a lot of these coaches recognize that and came up with that as a huge deal. I don't think anybody in the ACC is like, oh, I got to go to Charlotte or got to go to Indianapolis in your Big Ten or Dallas in the Big 12. Like it's a different kind of game, and it's kind of hard to describe, but it's something that I think for SEC teams, being such a difficult league, it's the one thing you can actually point to, right? Mm-hmm. The playoff is sort of this mythical thing, right? You can't define it, you can't shoot for it because you don't know what it is, right? The SEC championship game is something to say, hey, that's our goal, because beyond that, you're going to have a chance to win a national championship. We don't know how that's going to look. We don't know what it's going to look like, but we know the SEC championship is there. And I think that resonates for, I think, everybody involved in the conference. Kind of does in the Big Ten as well, but I think in the ACC and the Big 12, it's taken a little bit of a difficult time to, entrench that game as something big, but it matters. And I think and Kirby even said it, Lane, I don't necessarily think he gets it as much as others. I've talked to Kirby about it, that it's all that they care about. And beyond that, we'll see.
Yeah. I mean, to me, there's only two things in college sports that you can identify by the city, and that you want to go to Omaha and you want to go to Atlanta. Those are the two things. And I don't hear people going, well, we're just trying to get to Charlotte. We're just trying to get to Indianapolis. I mean, again, I'm not around those kind of people all the time because, living in the South, but Atlanta and Omaha are the two things that I think kind of carry the biggest weight.
I think for some teams in the Big Ten, it does for Indianapolis, but not all of them.
Yeah. I did want to ask you about the possibility of cold weather. Now, I'm sure you're going to pick a game that's not in cold weather to go to, but
I don't know. I kind of want to go to South Bend. That would be pretty awesome.
What if it ends up being Notre Dame hosting Alabama, like right now?
God,
that would be epic,
unbelievable.
Well, I already watched that snow game last week, the Missouri-Arkansas game, which normally I would not have it on my third TV, but snow. I love watching snow games. They're great. We may get a lot of them because right now they've got 3 teams in the first round that would host, which there's a potential of snow there.
Yeah, I know that's been kind of brought up, and all these, Big Ten teams, anybody in the North, they always say, well, SEC teams can't handle so-and-so stadium in the winter. And I'm like, look, y'all can't either. Playing in the cold sucks. Like, there's this idea, like, for the majority of the season, Notre Dame's got nice weather. Ohio State's got nice weather. So I don't necessarily buy into the fact that it's going to be a huge change because it's a huge change for everybody.
Yep.
Look, how many times in a college player's career do they actually play in a blizzard? One, maybe. Yeah. So I don't think it's going to be as big of a deal as maybe it's being made out to be. But it would definitely change narratives or I think shock Big Ten folks, Big Ten fans, because they wouldn't be able to use that narrative anymore, which would be, but you know how they are. It'd be devastating.
Yeah, we don't have the Dolphins in our league down here in the SEC. The Dolphins never win in the cold weather.
It sucks out. In the last 3 days in Atlanta have been awful, and I'm sure there have been people practicing in that, so they're used to it.
Well, I mean, you had the coldest Super Bowl ever, I think, or then you had the freezing ice up there.
That same year as Ray Lewis screwed up Buckhead for all of us forever.
That's right. Well done there. All right, it is time to play Yes, No Way, or Maybe with our good friend Barrett Sallee. He is coming to you on the Big Mills Cheesesteak Zoom line. And, of course, Yes, No Way, or Maybe is sponsored by Big Mills Cheesesteak. Just say you listened or watched the show, another Dooley Noted podcast, and you get free French fries with your order. So, Barrett, if you want to come down here and get some free fries, I'm your man. Number one on Yes, No Way, or Maybe. We will get a surprise Sunday from the College Football Playoff Committee. Warren Manuel says it's over. It's over.
No way. Look, and this is so dumb too. Like, they've done it the same way every year. Blank slate. Suddenly you're locked in now. You've dug that grave. I don't think they did it intentionally. I honestly think Warren Manuel misspoke on the TV broadcast and on the teleconference with us. But they've dug themselves in, so no way there's a change unless, I mean, obviously with Clemson, if Clemson wins or UNLV wins, there's going to be a little bit of a shakeup. But you're asking if Alabama gets knocked out. If Alabama gets knocked out, it'll be because SMU lost, and SMU would still get their spot, which they should, in my mind.
Yeah, well, and that's the thing. Alabama fans have got to be rooting hard for SMU and for Boise, because they don't want anybody knocking them out of that. I guess if UNLV won, they would just switch.
It would just change a bye with the Big 12 would probably get that bye.
Right. But that's the thing. And let me ask you this too. Do you think when they're sitting there, they're looking at things like brand with, just put Alabama and Notre Dame together? That'd be cool.
Oh yeah.
Because I know they do that in basketball.
Yeah, but Pat, they don't engineer matchups. Wink, wink.
We know what they're doing there, and that'll be the only thing. That'll be the only surprise. They may end up moving to teams that they go, this will even be a better matchup. All right, Yes, No Way, or Maybe number 2. College football this year with the 12-team playoff and all the stuff that was going on was the most interesting it's ever been.
Maybe. And I'm such a proponent of the BCS. I I'm more interested in other years, but the general public, that's why I say, like, maybe depending on who you ask. Me, I love the BCS era, but for the general public, which is really what matters, it would be yes. So I'll say maybe. And I keep saying, like, I like the BCS, whatever, but I'm like a politician who's conceded the election, right? I'm not going to continue. I'm going to continue to fight the good fight, but I will support our nominee and help make this sport as great as it can be. And casual fans love it. So ultimately, that's what matters.
Yeah, well, you may have to you take an oath or something on that. That's pretty good stuff. Yeah, no, look, I thought it was unbelievable week to week, but I think a lot of that has to do with portal and NIL and stuff. And I think that it's brought the pack closer to each other. It was fun. It's been a fun year for me watching it. There's no doubt about it.
It's again, it's different, right? And
yeah,
I think for good reasons and bad reasons, but I think it's brought the competition closer together, because the only teams that were actually hurt by the transfer portal are the big guys, because they don't have that depth.
Yep.
And I look no further than Eli Holstein. He would have been third string at Alabama. He goes to Pitt and he's a star for half the season, and he wouldn't have played.
Yeah, wouldn't have played at all. Well, that's the thing, though. It's you never know what's going to come around the corner these days, because there is, with all the parity that we've gotten closer together, it's just been wild. You see these giant spreads, you go, oh, that could be trouble.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
All right. Finally, on yes, no way, or maybe, our Braves deserve a healthy year, Barrett.
Oh God, yes. Can I go even further? Like, hell yes, please be healthy. God, they deserve it, man. Last year, I've never been so frustrated watching a playoff team. It was every single game, every week, every day. It just was like, if there was if there wasn't somebody getting injured, there was a reliever blowing a game, or Matt Olson having going 0 for 4 with all 4 being 100-mile-an-hour line drives off the bat. And it's like, come on, like, something, just give us something.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. It's like, even going into the playoffs, and I'm like, well, you never know. You only need, if you got a good start, you can get to. Oh, Chris Sale's out too. Oh, jeez.
When that happened, it's like, of course that's the way it is. Why wouldn't it be that way?
That's right. Anyway, all right, my man. Well, it's always good talking to you, and I highly recommend Barrett's Smothered and Covered podcast. Great stuff. And also listen to him on Sundays. I do on the way to the gym every Sunday. Sometimes I just sit in my car for a long time and listen to what you guys are saying.
Nice. Well, I appreciate that. You're also going to the gym. That's something I need to do today.
Well, I think I'm heading there right after I get done with this. So,
attaboy.
Appreciate your time, Barrett. We'll be back with more of another Duly Noted podcast presented by Titan MRI and Imaging from the Meldon Law Dooley Dome Gator Studios, when we return right after this break.
Titan MRI, North Central Florida's premier independent diagnostic testing MRI facility. At Titan MRI, we're focused on you, the patient, having a great customer experience. Our MRI equipment is modern and 75% quieter than any unit in its class. And our MRI unit has one of the largest openings of any of the newer high-strength MRI units, which allows comfortable scanning for potential claustrophobic and larger patients. At Titan MRI, we look forward to serving you.
Adams Rib Company has been a staple of Gainesville for more than a decade, and a staple of the Dooley house ever since Kelsey's teeth came in. The first time I walked into Adams, I told my daughter that the green beans are always a test of a great barbecue restaurant, and they were perfect. You know about the ribs that melt in your mouth, and my favorite, the turkey plate. But be sure to go in on Fridays for Nana's Fish Nuggets. They will melt in your mouth. Adams Rib Co., a Gainesville great. Another Duly Noted podcast comes to you from the Coaches Podcast Room at Spurrier's Gridiron Grill and Celebration Point. You can watch and listen to us on Facebook and YouTube for every podcast that we do on Mondays and Fridays at 2 o'clock. Listen to the podcast whenever on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, Overcast, any of the other 39 platforms where you can find this podcast or your favorite podcast. Remember to like, follow, and subscribe. If you have any questions or comments, leave them in the comments section below or call me if you want to do some advertising at 352-317-3444. Okay, welcome back to another Duly Noted podcast, of course, brought to you by the brand new company, Titan MRI and Imaging. We appreciate them, and certainly that is a big deal for Joe Calorio to buy the other place, and it's going to be great for the community, believe me. And, of course, we're coming to you from the Meldon Law Gator Studios. We always do this on Thursday, and we'll start off with our Hesser and Kipke 3 things. Of course, Hesser and Kipke is a Gainesville firm here for your needs in family law or workers' compensation. Call or text Ken and Jennifer 24/7 at 352-339-9920. Hesser and Kipke, nearly 50 years of combined legal experience and about to celebrate their 5th anniversary in January. And January is right around the corner, man. It's amazing how fast this year has gone by, man. It's just, but I don't know. Maybe it's, as you get older, it goes by faster. All right, number one on our Hesser and Kipke 3 things. Did want to talk a little bit about Tiger. And, of course, Tiger had another back surgery. You know, I'm about to have one. I got to get it scheduled, but that will be my first. His was his 6th. So, look, when you torque that much on your back and you're in a lot of planes, I think sitting down is one of the reasons I have my problem, because I sit to read, sit to watch, to write, sit to cover games. But man, his is just eating him alive. And I don't know that like I've said before, he ain't winning any more majors. I don't know that he's winning any more tournaments. But he said he's a long way to go. Think about that, his age, and he's still got a long way to go. I don't know. I would love to see him get out there and do something special and be excited and give me a reason to watch the Phoenix Open other than the 17th hole, which I will watch it because I still like it. But just the point is, Tiger made golf cool, and COVID made golf necessary. And if you could have gotten those 2 things together, and you know where Tiger was still playing really well, and the post-COVID surge would have been great, but that didn't work out. Anyway, I think you're seeing. I don't think I'm making any sense anymore. One other thing Tiger did say that I thought was interesting is he thinks LIV and the PGA are going to get together, and he wishes it happens sooner, and than the later, which is going to happen. I don't know how I feel about all that. You know, do these guys get? You know, they left the tour, they were traders, and now they're going to come back. I mean, what is this, Trevor Etienne? He's not coming back to Florida, but supposedly he's in the portal. I don't know if he's in the portal for real or not. There is so much fake news now. When I say fake news, I'm not saying fake news the way politicians use it. There is intentionally fake news. People put stuff up there to get a reaction that's just not true. And so I never know what to believe. And sometimes I believe it and say it on the air and radio. And guess what? It wasn't true. I think we had one story a couple of years ago where we were talking about it for 2 days, and then we found out it was all made up. That's all you can do. Anyway, we'll see what happens there. All right, let's get to number 2 on our Hesser and Kipke 3 things, and that is the Lakers last night lost by 41 to the Heat. LeBron said it was embarrassing. Maybe it's just that you guys aren't any good because you got 2 superstars and one of them's still good but not great the way he used to be, and one of them's injured a lot, but even if he's healthy, it's all you got. I don't know. I know they're not playing very well. Personally, I happen to like that very much. But that was the quote, totally embarrassed with the way they played. 41. Usually when you're watching an NBA game and a team gets down like 25, you know that they can come back, and there's plenty of time. You know that. They get down 41, the game's over. It's kind of hard to come back from that. All right, let's get to number 3 on our Hesser and Kipke 3 things, and that is I mentioned all those games with Auburn, number 2 in the country, losing. Number 1 loss last night. Kansas got beat by Creighton, which is a big deal, but it's also not a big deal, as we know. If it had happened at Fog Allen, it'd be one thing. If it had happened during the NCAA tournament, it'd be another thing. But you lose them, you're going to lose. Nobody, I mean, there aren't too many teams that are going to ever do what Indiana did. Maybe none ever again. Would they go 30? Was it 32-0 or 36-0? I can't remember. In 73, 72, somewhere in there. Scott May and Benson, and they had a really good team, good players. Kurt Benson, that's who it is. I'm trying to think of what his first name was. Anyway, so Kansas didn't go undefeated. That's all we know. They lost last night. So it's a big story in the world of college basketball. Not a big story nationally, just because we're all thinking about the playoffs and the NFL playoffs coming up real soon. And if you're living in a college town, you're thinking about basketball, college basketball. So, but you're not thinking about Kansas if you're in Gainesville, or maybe if you're living in Lexington, you do, because they beat Kansas earlier. All right, let's move along to I don't know. Wait, did they beat Kansas? They beat somebody. I don't know. I'll get caught up in my brain basketball-wise in a little bit. Let's move on to this, that, and the other. It is brought to you, as always, by Ballyhoo Grill, where I was yesterday and had interesting discussions with people there. By Ironwood Golf Course, where I played Sunday, a few holes, snuck out there for like 6 holes. We'll see what happens. The sad thing is out there is that the young ladies that I've gotten to know very well are like a part of my family and have helped so much with the golf tournament have been let go, and they knew it was coming. They've known it was coming for a long time. In fact, they thought it was coming a long time ago, but it's still. But for 2 weeks, the bar area, the food area, the drink area are going to be closed. So not the best time to go out there, I can tell you. I mean, you got to get a Diet Coke or something to go play golf, right? Anyway, that's a long way of getting to my next sponsor, which is Darshackow Insurance. And we love Darshackow Insurance. We appreciate all of our sponsors, all of our many sponsors. We love them. They make the world go round. All right, let's start it out with number one. This is Mike Slive. I'm bringing his name up, and I'm bringing it up for a reason. I keep hearing all these people wanting to talk about how Greg Sankey's made the SEC a basketball power. No. Greg Sankey's kept it going and made it even better. But Mike Slive's a guy who got it started. And when he was bringing coaches in and bringing ADs in and trying to make them understand you've got to play tougher teams that get you a better RPI, it's going to get you into the tournament more often, the better your schedule, and you need to hire big name coaches. Don't feel like you got to always go get a lesser known coach and, you know, a guy who's young or something. Go get take a shot on Bruce Pearl. Take a shot on I can't think of his name, the guy that was at UCLA, Ben Howland, you know, and that worked for a while. He's not there anymore. There's a couple of they've hired a lot of older guys, and Rick Barnes, you know, do those things, and they listen. And so now the SEC is the best conference in basketball. I heard Jimmy Dykes, with the fact that I heard him is a miracle, because I usually turn the sound off when he's on. But he was saying the SEC is a monster right now. Okay, well, let's get to this. And that's, I want to give credit. Mike Slive's the guy who got it going. Let's go to that, which is the SEC. We just talked about how they have made so many strides. And it's not only hiring coaches. And look, there's 2 ways to do it. You could go hire an established guy who knows how to win, has a system, or you can hire a young guy who has a system and is like Florida did with Todd Golden, like Florida did with Billy Donovan, and to a point with Mike White. He had some experience, but a lot of places have gone and hired bigger name coaches, and it's worked out really well for them. Some haven't. Some have just gone for the hot, I don't want to say Division II, but the hot mid-major, as the word I was trying to get out, coach. And like, for example, South Carolina, Lamont Paris, doing a heck of a job there. So anyway, the SEC certainly made a lot of strides. And that brings us to the other, which is right now, as I mentioned before, 5 teams from the SEC are in the top 10 in the net. And that is just going to keep it going. This is why when everybody's making these arguments about conferences and everything and who should get into the playoff in terms of football, your strength of conference is going to be, or your strength of schedule is going to be better because you play in this conference. And that's what's going to happen with basketball. You can go 9-9, that's okay because 9-9 is fine. You beat 9 teams in this conference. That's pretty good. So that is this, that, and the other, brought to you by Ironwood, by Darshakow Insurance, and of course by our friends at Ballyhoo. Ballyhoo. They're going through a sale change. It's going to be really interesting to see what happens. It's going to get better, I think. And I don't know how it can get better. It can't get better. Bill and Jackie do such a great job. That's why we hang out there all the time. We love going there. All right, let's go and get our Gallo Car Wash Sponge of the Weekend. Weekend. Gallo Car Wash, of course, it's where you go to get your car washed. That's where my daughter took my car on my birthday to get it washed, and I appreciated it. It looked really good. It did look great. We appreciate Gallo Car Wash for being a sponsor of the Sponge of the Weekend. In this case, the Sponge of the Weekend is Billy Napier, because Billy Napier soaked all those recruits up. He went to different schools and said, let me have one of those and one of these and one of these. Anything came near his sponge, he pretty much got. Certainly flipping so many guys. I think he flipped 11 guys in like 3 weeks. Well done. Although I also know this. Sometimes a guy is going to flip. He's going to come to you. He's decided. He really, he's sad about it. He goes, I really want to go to Florida. I don't want to go there. Okay, whatever it was. And he'll even tell the coach, and he say, stay quiet. Have it come out like the last week. Get some momentum going. And I don't know that Billy does that, but I know that Florida State used to do it, and I know that Florida used to do it in the old days. But, I mean, who knows whether he's doing that or not. But the bottom line is, like the class a lot. That's all that really matters. That is our Gallo Car Wash Sponge of the Weekend. We'll give you another one on Monday, our Sponge of the Week. And we appreciate Gallo Car Wash. We also appreciate the Florida Surf Club and their sponsorship of they have 2 sponsorships. One is for the Cool Dude of the Week on Monday, and then the Upset Alert on Thursday. And to find a game that qualified, which means you have to have at least be a touchdown underdog, 6 points or more, I had to go all the way back to the Billy Napier era, not the era, but where he used to be the coach, and find the Louisiana game. Louisiana is a 6-point favorite at home against Marshall. So there's your that's up. They're on upset alert, Louisiana. Marshall's pretty good. Every time I pick Marshall, they lose though. So I'm not going to pick them this week. Well, I don't think I have any picking for that. But our Florida Surf Club upset alert. You're on an upset alert, Louisiana. And the thing is, all the other games are like 2-3 points that are all the spreads for the championship games. But that is the championship of the Sun Belt, I think. I think they're still in the Sun Belt. I don't know where anybody is. I thought by the end of the year, I would know exactly, I could give you exactly everybody's conference. I can't tell you all 17 teams that are in the ACC. I can't tell you. I have no idea. FSU, Miami, North Carolina, Clemson, Virginia Tech. That's about as far as I go. Anyway. I'm having more fun than I think any of our listeners are, but I'm having a good time here. All right, let us get to our Leonardo's at Millhopper quick picks. We're going to give you 2 games. Get one of them right. That's all you got to do. And you qualify for our next pull, which will be before Christmas. Look forward to that. I've got to get, in fact, today, Keith, I'm going to get out there and get you your Leonardo's at Millhopper quick pick prizes. I don't know if I have another Patrick Young book available, but I'm actually going to go look at some point. I think there may be one on if there is, I'll send it to you along with $25 from Leonardo's. If not, I'm going to send you $25 from Nopal. Either way, you're going to be in good shape. All right, let's get to our quick picks. These are the 2 games. Georgia, Texas, SEC Championship. Texas is a 3-point favorite. It's a tough call, man. A tough call. And then Clemson, SMU. SMU is a 2.5-point favorite. That's a tough call. I guess I'm rooting for SMU. I've never been a big Dabo fan, but I've kind of warmed up to him at times. But if I can be assured that Alabama will stay at 12 and Miami won't get in the playoff, then I'll root for whoever they want me to. It just will make me really happy. Anyway, but that's our Leonardo's at Millhopper quick picks. Georgia getting 3 against Texas. Clemson getting 2.5 against SMU in both conference championship games. There's no way that Texas or Georgia could get left out, right? You never know. I don't think it's over yet. Not all the way over. There are teams that could get left out that think that they're in, like, for example, SMU. All right, let's move along to our Adams Ribco Gator of the Week. And that, for me, was Walter Clayton. And it may be him a lot this year, but Adams Ribco, I'm sure, would be happy to donate some ribs to his NIL fund. He was 10 of 19, 27 points, 18 in the second half, just playing really good basketball. And, that's the thing. When you come in as a preseason All-SEC, it doesn't always work out. Riley Kugel went the other way. But he has taken look, Walter Clayton is on a mission, and that is to show that he's a really good player and to be a great teammate while he's doing it. And to me, you can't ask for anything more than that. Yeah, and he's just lighting it up, scoring in big numbers, but he had 27 against Virginia. And Virginia's not the Virginia we used to remember, and it's not just because Tony Bennett left. They were kind of losing. They missed a couple of guys too. So anyway, they're not my problem anymore. I'm just glad Florida was able to beat them, and I'm sure everybody had a great time over the game Wednesday night. It is time for our Hugh, Cain, Allstate Mayhem moment. The Gator Nation is in good hands with local Allstate agent Hugh Cain. Stop by Alachua Marketplace Plaza in Alachua and get a free quote today. Well, everybody saw this and heard about it, and this was the hit on El Sharif that caused Trevor Lawrence to have a concussion and caused El Sharif to be suspended for 3 days. This is mayhem right there when you hit a guy that hard. And look, I also understand that it's hard when guys are trying to get an extra yard by not sliding too early. You've seen that happen. Chris Leak was famous for sliding before the first down. And you see it happen all the time with different players because it's where the ball is when you go down. It's not where your feet go. This isn't triple jump. And so I do get that part of it, but it certainly now, obviously, Trevor Lawrence is done for the year. They put him on IR. He could come back for the last game, but I don't think he will. They're not going to be in the playoffs. And of course, the suspension was upheld today, so it's 3-game suspension. I didn't think it would get reduced. I think it's about right. And again, this wouldn't have happened to him. He wouldn't have gotten 3 games. He probably would have gotten 1 game if he wasn't a repeat offender. I mean, he's done these kind of things over and over and over again, and they're going to get him out of it. And that's their plan. And we'll suspend you for an entire year if we have to, and you may not be able to get back into playing. This may knock you out of playing next year. Who knows? But punishments you've got to make things punitive. And this is why I rant and rave about not only the SEC, but the Big Ten just did it with giving the $100,000 fines to the 2 schools that are printing the most money up there at Ohio State and Michigan. Money is not going to solve the problem. The thing that's going to solve the problem is something that's definitely punitive. Like I've said, take the flags away. Then nobody ever plants a flag again. You've solved the problem. Take them away at the end of the third quarter. They don't need them anymore. They can live without them. There's a million things you can do that'll solve the problems, like the rushing of the field. If you really want to solve it, take the home game away next year. Everybody goes, "Oh, you can't do that. They've got to make all this plans and everything to travel." I go, "No, they don't. They do it like I do. They do it as they're like late in the year for the following year. Not only that, they managed to do an entire schedule in August for the COVID year, and guess what? Everybody showed up. All the players and all the except the ones that had COVID, everybody was there. Of course, the fans weren't there, but that's not what they're having to deal with. They don't need to worry about the fans. I'm getting off on a rant, I guess. Anyway, that is our Hugh Cain Allstate Mayhem moment. Let us finish up as we like to do with our Swamp Restaurant Games of the Week. And I am fired up for this weekend, but I'm also fired up about going to the Swamp. Maybe sit down, have a little nosh, a little cocktail. I think I can see that happening. I know what'll happen with my daughter. That she'll do it. The question is, can I do it? Sometimes I don't know. All right, let's get to our Swamp Games of the weekend. Tonight, obviously, you got Green Bay, Detroit, 8:15 on Prime. The problem I have with Prime is that there's only one TV I can get it on. So I have to watch it on the biggest TV. But if the game gets boring, I can turn it off. But then to turn it back on takes 10 minutes. But anyway, Friday night, Tulane is playing at Army. Oh, I think the game is actually at a neutral site. I'm not even sure. Tulane Army, 8 o'clock ABC. That's Friday night. And that, of course, is for a conference championship. But neither team, it doesn't appear, is going to jump up enough to get into the playoffs. But it's still important. And it is important. And Coach Spurrier and I talked about it Monday on the podcast, how winning conference championships still matter to some people. Not to all, but to some. They don't to Lane Kiffin, but they do to me. All right, then we have Saturday, Iowa State is at Arizona State. That's a noon ABC game. That is the Big 12 championship, right? So it's in Arlington. That's where it is. It's at the AT&T Stadium. They are on the Big 12, right? I'm not good at this. Okay, and then, of course, we got Texas and Georgia. That's at the Megadome, as I like to call it, the Mercedes-Benz Stadium. Megadome comes from Spinal Tap. That's where the other guy was playing the Megadome. I love Spinal Tap. All right, they're playing that game, obviously, at 4 o'clock on ABC. So be ready for that. I will be watching that. Penn State, Oregon will be on at 8 on CBS on Saturday. And then Clemson, SMU also at 8 on ABC. So that'll be a pretty cool double TV thing going. Friday, you also have Florida volleyball playing NC State in the NCAA tournament. That's at 5 o'clock. I did not get a TV station for that, but I know they're carrying it all. So it's on somewhere on ESPN. It's either on ESPN, ESPN2, ESPNU, or ESPN Plus. It's on somewhere. That's all I know for sure. Next time, maybe I'll look it up do a little better. And as you know, the basketball team, after that nice win, is taking 10 days off for exams. A lot of teams are taking that time off. There's not a lot of great college basketball games. We kind of piled them all in right before the break. Now we go to break. When they come back, it'll get really exciting. All right, that's going to do it for another duly noted podcast brought to you by Titan MRI and Imaging, and of course, coming to you from the Meldon Law Dooley Dome Gator studio. We will be back on Monday. Now, I'm not sure who our guest is going to be because Coach Spurrier is on the banquet circuit, but we're going to have a good one, I promise you that. And we'll see what happens and who it ends up being. Could be anybody. Might be Drew Copeland. You never know. All right, let's take a break and come back in Monday. How about that? How about if we come back in 4 days? Yeah, that's the ticket. That's what we'll do. For Zach Rothrock and for me, Pat Dooley, I am deep, I am way back, and I am out of here.